You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a professional motivational speaker, Nancy can assist you to blow through your setbacks and start living full out. If you have an inspirational story you want to share, email us at connect@livingfullout.com. Once again, here's Nancy.
Hello and welcome to the Living Full Out Show. My name is Nancy Solari, and today we're going to be talking about finding your way home. They say home is where the heart is, so what you're passionate about, what makes you feel safe and comfortable, that's home. Maybe home is adventure, the unknown. So we're going to be chatting about that today and different ways in which you can find your way home. And also our inspirational guest, Robin Bartlett, is a perfect example of that because after fighting in Vietnam and his years there and surviving that, and then all the twists and turns of finding his way back to a career that he could be passionate about and having a family, home has always been home in his heart and the people that he cares about and his dreams. And he'll share how all that factors in when we have his interview shortly. Also, we want to make sure that you do go to livingfullout.com to hear any of our episodes. There's so many good ones that may inspire you in different times in your life when you need us most. Also, remember that if you're on the go, you can go to the App Store and look for the Living Full Out Show app as well. Now, I'm getting word from our producer that we do have a listener on the line. We're going to go check in with them. Hello, welcome to the Living Full Out Show.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi, thank you for calling. How can I help you today?
Yeah, I was calling because it's funny that you talk about home, but, sometimes we move away from home. So I just had a quick question about friendships and how, once you get older, particularly, coming out of college and school, it's not as easy to make friendships or nurture them. So how would you go about making friendships when you're older?
Such a great question. And are you more concerned about keeping the ones you have or meeting new ones?
I think my question's a little bit more of new ones, in particular, maybe moving out of the state or the country or just moving away from your, childhood friends or college friends. How would you go about making new friendships?
Well, I'll actually touch on both, but, I do talk about this resource on different shows that we've had over the years, but one site I use quite a bit, even to this day, is meetup.com. So it's meetup.com. And there's a lot of different in-person as well as Zoom now groups that you can join for everything from cooking to karaoke to volleyball to basketball, you name it, spiritual groups, everything. Also, I'm a firm believer in kind of getting out there, like, for example, going to an aerobic class, taking an extra class at like an extension or a community college, just some place where you can be around other people, a networking function of some kind. Tapping into your alumni group if you can. I mean, I went to the University of Oregon, and I know from time to time I tap into that group and I'm meeting fellow Ducks, and I'm like, yeah, go Ducks, right? So you always will have something in common. And when it also comes to staying in touch with past friendships, I think you want to find a way to grow up together, even after you move away. Because once you move away, they're going to have new friendships because obviously you're not there on the daily with them. And, everyone's going to have life experiences. I know for myself, I do try to find ways to do that. I'm constantly FaceTiming my friends, being legally blind myself. Sometimes I'll drop something and can't find something, and I'll be like, this is a best friend moment. And literally I'll FaceTime her and she goes, what are we looking for? And I'm like, do you see the cap for my Mountain Dew on the floor? But she knows me well. And there were times over the years if I was doing dating, like let's say online dating, because for a visually impaired person, those pictures are really small. I would call up a friend and we would each pour a glass of wine remotely, and I would give her my username and password and she would log in and we would kind of date together, right? So I think there's ways in which you can stay banded together, yet, not live right by each other. So I guess my first question kind of back to you is, so you haven't made this move yet, but it sounds like you're going to make a move. Is that right?
No, I actually have made the move already.
Oh, you did make the move. Okay.
Yeah.
And so where you moved to, has it been everything you thought it would be? Or is it different than you thought it would be?
Not exactly. It's a little bit different than what I expected it to be, especially, working from home and then also just coming out of COVID. I feel like, there's so many things that you can do online now, but so it's a little hard for me to get out there.
Right. Be careful of that online. Trust me, I get it. It's so easy to do like an online group, right? But
Yeah.
it's not the same as getting out there. So I do want you after this call to see if they have meetup.com where you are. I
Okay.
think that would help a lot. Um, but the reason why I asked if it's different than what you thought, it's because part of it is the physical, like getting out the door, getting to a event. But the
Yeah.
other part of it is being mentally in it, right? Because
Yeah.
you can go to an event, you can go to an aerobics class, you can physically do those things, but are you being a smaller version of who you would be normally? A
Yeah.
more quieter, a more timid, a more, I'm just going to observe the people, where maybe who you want to be is, hi, my name is, or, so that's why I'm asking, are you being different than you know yourself to be?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think that I am definitely more of a shy person in the beginning, so I'm a little bit more reserved and not very outgoing in the first few moments. But once I do catch a friendship, and I think that just now it's also just a little hard nurturing that. I guess that's like the second part of the question is how to nurture a friendship, say that we do get along or I do go out there and
Okay.
find some commonality. How busy schedules and all.
Super like dating. It's just going back to
Yeah.
basics. No, seriously, it's kind of one of those things where you have just a moment with somebody. It could be a moment where you're chit-chatting briefly in line for something.
Yeah.
It could just be a brief chit-chat at a networking group, or maybe you do a task together if it's an event and ha ha ha, fun, fun, fun. Oh my gosh, I could totally hang out with that person, but I didn't get their number, right? How many
Yeah.
times do people say that? Oh, I didn't get his number. I didn't get her number, right? So you want to turn it up a little bit where to nurture the relationships, one person has to get the digits. One person has to get the email. And you want that to be you. You want to be the driver, okay?
Okay.
Because if you sit back and kind of let it play out or think, oh, well, we had a moment, but I'm sure I'll see them at the end. We'll say goodbye. You might not get that goodbye. So what I would do is when you go out there now and you meet some new people, and again, we want to be careful. We don't want to be socially awkward about it.
Yeah.
But pick a moment where something is funny, just like how you laughed. You have a great laugh. So pick something that's funny. Or if somebody says, oh my gosh, you should definitely try this restaurant. Oh my gosh, that sounds great. You know what? I'd love to go there maybe with someone like you who actually has been there before. Why don't I text you my number, or do you want to text me yours and we'll just meet up?
Oh,
Or
wow, that's
if
great.
somebody says, oh gosh, have you been to the such and such? Maybe it's another restaurant opportunity. Maybe there's a bunch of you talking at one time together and someone references one thing. You could say, oh my gosh, that sounds like a lot of fun. You know what? I'm so glad we all met today. Why don't we all do that, in the next couple of weeks? I'll be kind of the person who kind of puts it together. Why don't I get your numbers? So
Yeah.
somebody's got to be the planner, and that can be you. But do you see how, like, if you just do that in a casual, fun way, that before you know it, you're going to have a lot of numbers, a lot of friends, and, but I have learned that over the years that if you think you're going to see people later, you don't always see them later. And then there's that really fun person that you just lost. And sometimes I do that a lot when I'm at karaoke because I love karaoke. It's like my nerdy thing, but I love it. And
Yeah.
I'll have a moment with someone where they'll be like, oh my gosh, I love that song. Or, we'll have a moment. I'll be like, oh my gosh, do you come here often? No. Wow. Well, next time I come, I should definitely, give you a holler before I head over. Let's exchange numbers. Here's my number. Great, great. Okay, well, talk soon. Bye. And then it just means that next time I might head over to that karaoke spot, I might just text them, hey, it's Nancy. You met me 2 weeks ago. As promised, I'm heading over. Do you see that?
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely missed opportunities not taking the driver's seat there.
Yeah, but if you do take the driver's seat and you turn it up, and before you go out to the event, have a little ritual, a little light a candle, blast some music, have an outfit that makes you feel good. Because honestly, I would want a friend like you. Think of all the people that aren't getting your friendship because you don't have their number.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think you're going to do great. So thank you so much for calling in. Really appreciate it. And you will find home where the friends are, I promise. And for everybody, we're going to be coming right back after this break with Robin Bartlett, an interview you don't want to miss.
Life looks a little different. During these times, we're doing our best to keep our minds and bodies strong. And getting a flu shot helps us stay healthy, so we don't miss out on what matters. Like having game night at home. Yeah, can't do that while sick with the flu. Now imagine family movie night that your daughter can't live without. Well, that's ruined. And don't forget your uncle's socially distanced cookout. See? That's why it's important to be at our strongest. Every year, millions of people in the U.S. get the flu. Especially now, no one has time to miss out on moments that matter. So get your flu shot. Find out more at getmyflushot.org. Brought to you by the AMA, CDC, and the Ad Council.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
Just a little heads up before something bad happens.
Move your coffee cup away from your computer.
Oh, no.
So you can have more control.
Stop. You're texting your boss by mistake.
Uh-oh. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Warning. The cap is loose on that ketchup.
Ugh. Don't wait. You have the power to change the outcome. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart and brain. Who's with me?
Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
And my brain is saying, when it's time to go home, somebody call me a ride.
Love that guy.
Me too.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Watch out! You got me!
The galaxy is safe once again.
In the pretend universe, kids play with pretend guns. In the real world, it's up to us to make sure they don't get their hands on a real gun. If you have a gun in the house, keep it locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a life coach, Nancy can teach you how to stay strong under pressure and work through challenges you face. Being legally blind, Nancy inspires others to be resilient in overcoming obstacles and live full out. You can ask Nancy for advice in your life on relationships, finance, business, health, and more. Just call in at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. Now, here's Nancy.
Welcome back. I'm Nancy Solari, and this is the Living Full Out Show. And today we're talking about finding your way home. And we brought you a very inspirational guest today, Robin Bartlett, who spent years of his childhood kind of bouncing around in different places because his family was in the military, but that further gave him more vigor and inspiration to go into the military himself, and several years where he gave his service. And most of all, I think as he went through his years of his life, just seeing how he rallied and started over so many different times, just to now come to a place where he's really writing his own story, literally being one of his favorite hobbies, writing. And so I'd very much like to welcome Robin to the show.
Thanks very much, Nancy. Glad to be here.
Oh, so happy to have you. And Robin, as I shared briefly, boy, you moved around a lot, like 13 different schools. And, your father, your brother, your grandfather, so many, really great men of honor there. And that growing up for you, do you think that was kind of a help or a hindrance when you consider just how many times later in life you needed to start over?
Yeah, I think it was very challenging being a military brat, living in so many different places and moving every 2 to 3 years. I often found it very difficult to make friends. And then when I finally had a friend, within a year or two, I'd move away and lose them. So I've got a few friends that go way back, and I've just held on to them tenaciously, but that I think it's hurt me quite a bit. It kind of makes you reserved and less gregarious, perhaps, than I would want to be.
The almost interesting thing about that, and we're going to get to all of your military service shortly, but boy, if you did all the great things you did as a reserve person, I can only imagine what you would have been if you were full throttle. Because you're pretty amazing, mister. Now, one of the things I find is always interesting are crossroads in life. And I know when you were going to go to college, you thought economics, right? You kind of had a different vision for your future. But thankfully, you had some guidance, and you were kind of pointed in a different direction. What words of advice was given to you?
Well, I went to a liberal arts college in Southern California and was going to be an economics major, and I started my junior year and took 4 economics courses and 1 literature course, and bought the books, read the first chapter, went to the first class, went to see my advisor and said, "This is it. I'm done. I'm going to flunk out. I hate this. I can't stand it." And I got some really good advice from a wonderful mentor who I'm still in contact with to this day, who said, well, look at your grades. You've gotten A's and B's in literature and language, and you've gotten C's in economics. You need to be a literature major. And I said, well, but my father wants me to have a practical degree. And he said to me, well, call your father and tell him it is practical. You'll graduate. So I became a comparative literature major, studying literature and the French language.
Well, and what great advice he gave you, because if you had tried to, kind of hammer it out, the economics, that would have been so frustrating, really. I can't even imagine.
More than frustrating. Yeah, never would have made it.
Exactly. Now, interestingly enough, there you are getting your comparative literature degree, but you also decided to join ROTC. And I'm just wondering why you decided to do that. I mean, obviously your family had been in the military, but I mean, that's kind of switching gears. You had kind of the writing you and then this new military you.
Well, there were really 2 influential factors. One was the fact that 18-year-olds were being drafted on a regular basis. This was approaching the height of the Vietnam War. And I actually, in between my freshman and sophomore year, got reclassified, and I said, "Oh no, I don't want to be drafted." And if I do serve, I have to serve as an obligation. That was more or less a family tradition. So I went into the ROTC. It was a very practical decision of the time, based upon those two factors. Didn't want to be drafted.
You didn't want to be drafted. Now, your journey obviously eventually took you to Vietnam, and when you were there, you were in a leadership role. What it meant so much to you to be there for your men, to make sure that they were safe, and you obviously had a lot of artillery that got shot. What made you go to that place?
Well, again, I went through, I decided at the ripe age of 21 that I knew everything there was to know, and I was a really tough guy at the time. So I volunteered for Airborne, Ranger, and the 82nd Airborne Division, which was, at that point in time, probably the most arduous thing that I could think of doing. And was very gung-ho, and all of the other officers, including West Pointers, who were more or less in my class of training class, all went to Vietnam more or less at the same time after a brief stay at the 82nd Airborne Division. And, that was more or less the progression of an infantry officer at that point in time. That's what was expected. And Ranger School training was actually was an insurance policy. That was the best training that the Army had to offer at that point in time. But I learned very quickly, after being assigned as a platoon leader with my unit in the 1st Cav Division, that the more important thing for me as a leader was the welfare of my men, and not to put them unnecessarily in harm's way. That became my philosophy.
Well, and that speaks so much to who you are, because your heart has been in it, to serve, but also to inspire. And, going to Vietnam, that was scary. And actually, there was a time where they paused. They said, "That's it, no more. We're going to send you home." Were you relieved at that point, or did you feel like, you came there on a mission that you wanted to fulfill?
Well, again, I think I came there on a mission to fulfill, but I had an experience in Vietnam when I was wounded and came pretty close to death, not because of the severity of wounds, but because of bleeding. And while I lay on the ground from about 2 o'clock in the morning until 6, when I could finally be medevaced, I had a long talk with myself, and it was a turning point, a definite turning point in my life, making the decision that, if I were to die at that point in time, and I kind of took stock and said, it was not worth it. It was not worth it, and I had more to contribute and more to do. So fortunately, my wounds were not life-threatening, and after I got a couple of pints of blood back into me, my wounds were patched up, and I was actually able to get back to my unit within a fairly short period of time.
And you're obviously here with us today, so that's good news. So Robin, stay with us, because we're going to take a break now, but there is more inspiration from him, so much more to his story. So everybody stay with us today. It is about finding our way home. We'll be back.
Today in school, I learned a lot. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me. In English, I learned that I'm disgusting. And in physics, I learned that I'm a loser.
Today in school, I learned that I'm ugly and useless. And in gym, I learned that I'm pathetic and a joke. In history, I learned that I'm trash.
Today in school, I learned that I have no friends. In English, I learned that I make people sick. And at lunch, I learned that I sit on my own because I smell. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me.
In biology, I learned that I'm fat and stupid. And in math, I learned that I'm trash.
The only thing I didn't learn in school today?
The only thing I didn't learn today?
The only thing I didn't learn
is why no one ever helps.
Kids witness bullying every day. They want to help, but they don't know how. Teach them how to stop bullying and be more than a bystander at stopbullying.gov. A message from the Ad Council.
I'm Nancy Solari, certified life and business coach. I want to invite you to the Personal Development Boot Camp. During the boot camp, we're going to be looking at taking those insecurities that you have and getting rid of them. We're also going to look at ways in which you can thrive and live a life full of purpose. Go to livingfullout.com/bootcamp, livingfullout.com/bootcamp to sign up. I believe in you, and here's to you living your life full out.
They'll challenge your authority.
Put your seatbelt on.
They'll try to break your will. They'll push you to the edge of your sanity. Because that's what kids do. But this car is your territory, not theirs. Defend it. Who makes the payments? Who cleans it? Who drives it? You do. That's who. And in here, your word is law. So when you say you won't move until everyone's buckled up, you won't budge an inch. Until you hear that click. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. For more information, visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup.
7 million children suffer from asthma, more than any other chronic disease. Most asthma attacks are caused by allergic reactions to allergens, including those left behind by cockroaches and mice. In fact, 82% of U.S. households contain mouse allergens, and cockroaches are found in up to 98% of urban homes. How can you protect your family? Find out at pestworld.org. A message from the National Pest Management Association and the American College of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it twice a day.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it in the morning and before dinner.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it, and share it with my doctor. Nearly 1 in 2 U.S. adults have high blood pressure. That's why it's important to self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. It starts with a monitor.
Now that I know my blood pressure numbers, I talked with my doctor. We're getting those numbers down.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
Be next to talk to your doctor about your blood pressure numbers. Get down with your blood pressure. Self-monitoring is power. Learn more at manageyourbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association. In partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Health Resources and Services Administration.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. With Nancy's expertise, you'll learn how to embrace your potential and strive for success. If you have a question or need further support, send us an email at connect@livingfullout.com. Now, here's Nancy.
Thank you for joining us today. I'm Nancy Solari, and this is the Living Full Out Show. And today we're talking about finding our way home. And we have brought you such a great guest, Robin Bartlett, really kind man, sharing with us his stories of, everything from being in Vietnam to getting back and trying to figure out what is next. We've all been at that crossroad trying to figure out what is our life purpose. So I'd very much like to welcome Robin back.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
You will. And Robin, I know that when you came back, there were many stops. You went to Alaska. You were obviously in different places. But when you got to Santa Monica, California, and you had your job there, that is where you met your wife. And I know that over time, she has been somebody that has really helped you to loosen up, to love, to be more open. And, as a father to kiddos, I know that you wanted that. And growing up in a military family, I'm sure there was a lot of structure. What did you learn from her that allowed you to be the man that you are today?
Well, I was just terribly fortunate to find a woman who, even though she had a vastly different upbringing and philosophy than my own, recognized the fact that I carried a lot of baggage back with me from Vietnam, as well as 6 years in the Army, and I pursued a career in publishing, and that's where I met her. It was also in publishing, and fortunately, she recognized that I need a little bit of mind restructuring, and she kicked me in the butt on a pretty regular basis. And as our children were born and grew up, I found that I had to overcome a lot of that coldness and reserve, and unpack some of the baggage that I had carried with me for many years as a result of that military experience. And it I really attribute so much of the growing that has occurred in my life to her and to her regular mental restructuring. I learned how to say I love you, and I learned how to hug my kids. And believe it or not, I know that sounds like something so normal and regular, but for me, it was a challenge that I had to overcome.
Well, I love that. And if we could all find someone like her, what a gift. And, really, so oftentimes I'm sure you hear people say, thank you for your service, Robin. Thank you. Thank you. But within your community, other veterans, really the words that ring home are welcome home. What does welcome home mean to you?
Well, and those are two very, very special words for Vietnam veterans. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with the words, thank you for your service. And most veterans will appreciate that. But, Vietnam veterans are starting to walk in the boots of our Korean brothers and World War II brothers. And you can recognize us. We like to wear our Vietnam hats periodically, their ball caps. And if you want to make an impression, if you want to demonstrate that you truly understand the sacrifice that we made in Vietnam, because we were not welcomed home when we came back, in fact, often held responsible for many of the things that happened in Vietnam. But if you really want to demonstrate that you understand the sacrifice that we made and the freedoms that we all enjoy today, say thank you, say welcome home, because it will bring tears to our eyes and lumps to our throats. It's so meaningful to Vietnam veterans.
I love that. And your journey, you've never forgotten all your brothers that fought. Some came home and some did not. And it really, you went through nightmares. You went through a lot of, post-traumatic stress. And it was only in recent years that you've been able to kind of verbalize it, take that talent that you have as a writer and put it pen to paper and write a book. But this book, your memoir, really took about 20 years to write. Is that right?
Well, it took me a better part of 10 years, yes, to write it, because I started out saying, I've got to get some of these unusual things that happened to me in Vietnam, I've got to get them down on paper. And I felt as if by writing those stories down that I might be able to come to grips and face some of these more traumatic experiences that I had. And there were some funny ones too. So it's not all combat. It's not all difficult situations. There's a nice mix in the book. And I was able to write on a job that took me on long airplane flights. So I would write on these 5-hour coast-to-coast flights and work on a chapter. And it was amazing how much detail my mind would retain. There were times when I could just absolutely go back into that environment, go back into that situation and relive it, see the colors, smell the smells, and I would come away sometimes sweating. It was traumatic, and I did have to come to grips with some of those same situations that I experienced before, but in time, that trauma was reduced, and in time, those sharp edges got a little softer for me.
Well, and you were even choosy when it came to who was going to publish your book. You got one offer and you said no, but who did you finally go with?
My publisher is Casemate Publishers, and found a wonderful publisher there, actually based in the United Kingdom, who recognized, has had a great deal of experience. And Casemate, by the way, publishes a lot of military books. They're really known for that field. And I found a publisher who had published a number of Vietnam books and really had a good appreciation for what I was trying to do and what I was trying to say. And I've been so terribly pleased with the production job and the cover, all those elements that make for a very successful book.
I love that. And, today we're talking about finding our way home. And again, you moved around a lot as a kid. You didn't even know if you'd make it home from Vietnam. You've moved around a lot just in your, working years of your life at different jobs. Do you finally feel home? Do you finally feel whole? Or is there a part of you that's still trying to get there?
Well, there are some chains that we all sort of drag behind us. And I know I have my own set of chains that I drag, but writing this book has been an attempt to maybe knock off some of those links as best as I possibly could. But yes, I'm home now, and I've got 3 wonderful sons who are understanding, along with my wife, understanding of the peculiarities that are a part of my personality and a part of my lifestyle. And I guess they accommodate me to a great extent. And I continue. It's a work in progress. It's still a work in progress for me to continue to make that lifelong adjustment and demonstrate love and empathy to my family as well as to my colleagues.
Well, and again, thank you for your service and welcome home and all those things in between, because truly I can't imagine what you saw that you can't unsee, and how scary different times of your life, were when you were fighting out there. But at the same time, I know you are very patriotic, and there's so much happening right now in the world. But how does it make you feel to just kind of see some of this unrest in the world as someone who has been in the military and part of a military family?
Well, that's very difficult to do, because I'm sort of standing on the line in between the hawk and the dove, so to speak, and I can equate to both worlds, and it pulls on me. I'm the president of the New York, New Jersey chapter of the 1st Cav Division, and we have quarterly meetings, and I meet with other veterans, and we've tried to attract soldiers from Afghanistan and who served in Afghanistan, but they have families to raise, and it's very difficult for them to come to our meetings. But it's a bonding type of situation, and we all share in a lot of similar backgrounds and stories, and I think that helps a great deal to be able to share and talk with others who have had similar experiences, and that helps a great deal to make that transition.
I bet. And because you went through it yourself, and reliving it with the book, what's one piece of advice that you have for somebody to manage stress if they're in that place of anxiety?
Well, being mindful on a regular basis, even if it's for a minute a day or 5, to find a moment of peace and close your eyes and do some deep breathing, and to relax your mind and relax your thoughts, and come to a place in your mind and in your body of peace and harmony. That is something I try to do on a regular basis as best I can. I'm still kind of, type A type of person, and that's sometimes very difficult for me to do, but I've been practicing that, and it helps a great deal.
Well, as someone who has been through as much as you, and again, I can appreciate, I have written several books myself, so I know what that process is like, reliving something that was already traumatic. And it is great that you've taken the pearls of wisdom from your wife and applied them to being more loving and saying, I love you and all that. And honestly, Robin, I don't think you can do life better. I think you've served your family, you've served your country, you've checked off personal bucket goals that you've had for yourself. So when it comes to living full out, mister, I think you're doing amazing. And I'm very, very proud of you. So thank you for sharing your story today with us.
Thank you, Nancy. And the title of my book, by the way, is Vietnam Combat, Firefights, and Writing History. So if people are interested, they can find it on Amazon and Google and
all those places. Well, Robin, thank you so much, and we wish you all the best. Thank you. And for everybody today, it is about finding our way home. It's really about finding that peace that Robin was talking about. So we can all do that. We can achieve living full out. We can achieve peace. We just have to keep stepping forward. So I'm Nancy Solari. We'll be right back and after this break.
To some people, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much. But that's not necessarily true. By 6 months, they're combining vowels and consonants. By 9 months, they're trying out different kinds of sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on some meaning. Especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Early screening and intervention can make a lifetime of difference and unlock a world of possibilities. Take the first step at autismspeaks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Most of us like to be out in the sun. That's why sunscreen and other safety measures are key to protecting your skin from aging and cancer. The FDA recommends using a sunscreen with a sun protection factor, or SPF, of 15 or higher. Also, look for broad spectrum on the label. That means both harmful ultraviolet A and B rays are blocked. UVA rays age the skin, UVB rays burn, and both cause cancer. But the perfect sunscreen doesn't count if you use it wrong. Don't need sunscreen on a cloudy day? Wrong. 80% of UV rays still get through the haze. Only use sunscreen at the beach? Nope. Anytime you're outside, UV rays attack the skin, so you need protection. And you have to reapply sunscreen every 2 hours. Remember, SPF plus broad spectrum equal healthy fun in the sun. Visit www.fda.gov/sunscreen for more information. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Right now, our country feels divided, but there's a place where people are coming together.
I gotta tell you, I was nervous to talk to someone so different than me.
Me too, but I'm glad we are.
Love Has No Labels and One Small Step are helping people with different political views, beliefs, and life experiences come together through conversation, and it feels good.
Wow, your story is so...
Interesting?
Yeah.
When people actually sit down, talk, and listen to one another, they can break down boundaries and connect as human beings. At lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep, you can listen to amazing, life-changing conversations and find simple tools to start a conversation of your own.
I know one thing. This conversation gives me hope.
It gives me a lot of hope, too.
Take a step toward bringing our country and your community together by having the courage to start a conversation at lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep. A message from StoryCorps, Love Has No Labels, and the Ad Council.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
When it comes to finding your way home, always trust your instincts, right? You have to be able to feel life through rather than rejecting pain, rather than wanting everything to always be perfect. It's about feeling life, feeling the emotions, but yet letting yourself grow from each of them. When you're able to step forward, have those emotions in check, have that focus in mind, then you're living full out.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a professional motivational speaker, Nancy can assist you to blow through your setbacks and start living full out. If you have an inspirational story you want to share, email us at connect@livingfullout.com. Once again, here's Nancy.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Nancy Solari, and this is the Living Full Out Show. And today we're talking about finding your way home. And that word home is going to be different for everybody. Sometimes it's your physical home, right? Maybe you've moved away, and whether it be in the US of A or whether it be across the land. And I know for me, gosh, the times I've traveled overseas, I love traveling. But there's nothing like getting back and going to my favorite restaurants or sleeping in my bed, and then you're quote, quote, home. But sometimes it's also home is a feeling, home is a sound, home is a smell. And that's going to be different for everybody. What I've learned over my life, especially with going visually impaired, becoming legally blind, is that my home is through my senses. And so a lot of times that is a smell. Now, I know this may sound really silly, but smelling my guide dog's head, my Labrador's natural smell is like home. I just feel so safe with my buddy. Or sometimes, there's certain dishes that I've grown up with over the years. And when I make them for myself at home or for friends, just the whiff of that, it takes me back. And it's like better than mac and cheese. It's better than, that cozy fire. It fills up my belly and I feel like I'm home. Like, this is so great. Now, there's other times, though, where it's hard to feel home. Sometimes we just have life transitions where maybe you're traveling a lot and you find yourself in hotel rooms. That doesn't feel like home. Or maybe there's times where you just are going from job to job to job and constantly on that hamster wheel, and you can't get that sense of home. You want to have something that anchors you. So for me, I actually got this thing when my dad passed away. It's for fishing, and I always wanted something when he passed that was kind of shiny, kind of smooth, and so when I hold that, I can think of him. Or my grandfather was actually one of my biggest heroes, and when he passed away, I got his clock. And just the ticking of his clock, sometimes when I just sit in the quiet and I'm alone and I just hear that tick, 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 it's like he's with me, and I can just kind of channel some of that wisdom from him that I wish I could get. The other thing too, now don't think I'm creepy when I say this, but I, being visually impaired, I can't write notes or see notes on paper or anything. And so I have what's called a Victor Stream. It's a device. It's made by Humanware, and it allows me to record notes. Now, I'm sure someone could easily do that on their phone, but for those of us who are visually impaired, this is just so much easier. And a lot of times, I'll save a voicemail if it's something like my mom calling me to wish me a good day or happy Valentine's Day, or maybe a message from a friend, or, in recent years, I lost a really good friend to COVID. And just the other day, I was going through some of my SD cards that came with my Victor Stream, and I came across a recording of him just leaving me a voicemail, but it was so nice to hear his voice. And so when we consider home are all those senses. It's what you see, it's what you smell, it's what you taste, it's what you hear. And that's going to be different for everybody. Now, sometimes we have to think about, what does home look like in the future for us, because we are all changing and moving around. And for all of you who own your home and you're going to live out the rest of your days there, that is great. But for most of us, most people do move around, or they might find themselves in their later years moving to even an assisted living home, and then you're uprooted. So sometimes making your home feeling a physical location is a little bit risky when down the line you're uprooted, you've lost your home. So it's really important to find a base that you can take with you. So again, if you are in that hotel and feeling lonely, if you are on the road, if you are having a really long day going from, gig to, commitment to commitment, you have something that will help you. And like I said, all my different mementos. And when you think about living full out and you think about all these ambitions you have for your life, it's really easy to get overwhelmed. And so another type of home is your inner compass, your inner spirit, your faith. And so you want to really turn that up. So whether, it's turning to the Bible, whether it's joining a Bible study, whether it's taking meditation classes, whether it's finding a way to be very peaceful and calm at your own home, just having quiet time, there's no replacement for that, because truly we live in a world that has so much noise, so much action, that you want to have an ability for yourself to take you to that place of calm. Our inspirational guest today talked about that as well. So as you leap away from today's show, I want you to think about what has you feeling like home? What gives you that Zen feeling? And then you want to really recognize that, gather all the mementos, think about what smells, what tastes, what touch all make you feel that way. Because when you're living full out and you're going out there and you're doing it, you also want to have that soft place to fall, and that comes from within you. Thank you to everybody listening today. The entire Living Full Out family is right beside you every step of the way. Make sure you go to livingfullout.com if you want to hear today's show again. As always, here's to all of you living full out.
Thank you for listening to the Living Full Out Show with Nancy Solari. To learn more about this program, visit livingfullout.com for the latest episodes. Connect with the Living Full Out community by following us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and subscribing to our YouTube channel. Here's to you, living full out.